Thanks for tuning in to the Urban Scope podcast. I'm back with another topic, debate topic, I should say. I seen an article online that had a debate for the best Oklahoma Sooner quarterback in their history, in their illustrious history. So, of course, I had to embrace this debate and figure out where I was going to go with this topic. Uh, I didn't realize how much of an Oklahoma fan I was growing up watching the games because a lot of time on Fox, being in Memphis, they would play Oklahoma games and you would watch those late night games and just see just the beauty of the game, especially at night in Oklahoma. So I became a fan of watching them, especially over the recent, decade or so. All the Heismans and great quarterbacks and great play they've been able to put up. Unfortunately, they weren't able to capture a national championship, but they have a long history of great quarterbacks. But the quarterback discussion was basically, rooted around or geared around who is the better quarterback all the time in Oklahoma history between Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, and Caleb Williams. Now, all of these players have won Heisman's, with the exception of Caleb Williams won a Heisman, but it was with USC. But he made his name when he was at Oklahoma, especially replacing Spencer Rattler, who ended up going to South Carolina, and he's in the league now playing for New Orleans Saints. But uh, the argument was start, bench, or cut. But I kind of went just off the best player because it's very difficult to do that conversation. But that conversation is not relevant to me. I just want to talk about who I think the best quarterback out of those three quarterbacks between Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, and Caleb Williams. Now, Oklahoma, most can consider it quarterback U because of all the Heisman winners that they have at the quarterback position. So they're definitely in that conversation for quarterback U. And they almost had three Heisman in a row because they had Baker win one, they had Kyler Murray win one, and then Jalen Hurts was in the conversation for it before I think he lost to K State or somebody along the way, and the play kind of fell off. But they were in the running for 3 years in a row for the Heisman Trophy at that quarterback position. So that was very, that was been groundbreaking for them to do. Just to win two back to back with different quarterbacks at the same school is just crazy in itself. But just to do it 3 years in a row with three different quarterbacks would have been phenomenal, especially for Lincoln Riley and the legacy he was trying to create. Even though Jalen Hurts wasn't a part of that, but nevertheless, um, but I'm just gonna pick the best quarterback. But let me just give a little background on all the quarterbacks. So, well, just in the scenario, so Kyler Murray and Baker only did it for 1 year at Oklahoma. For the most part. Kyler was a backup to Baker the year that Baker won the Heisman. But Caleb, of course, didn't win the Heisman at OU. So I'm putting Caleb Williams out of the conversation because he didn't win a Heisman at Oklahoma. So I can't say he's the best quarterback in Oklahoma history. But this QB conversation is very complicated because it's between Kyler and Baker, in my opinion. Now, Caleb was phenomenal, but like I said before, he did most of his damage at USC and really cut his teeth at USC. But he was definitely one of the best quarterbacks I've seen in history alongside Cam Newton that I've seen with my own eyes and not just, off of stats or anything like that. But if you're going by accolades, I must give the edge to Baker Mayfield. And I'll say for one reason, he was a walk-on, a transfer that walked on at OU. So he came out of nowhere, pause, and was able to win the Heisman. And nobody saw it coming. And that win that he had at Ohio State at Ohio State was probably one of the best moments in college football history for him to go into that field and play the way he did. And Urban Meyer said it was the best game he ever seen a quarterback play against him. So that just shows you the talent of Baker Mayfield, and he's been underrated in the league in the NFL. But he's always had a chip on his shoulder because he's always been, a smaller player, and he's never got the credit just due because I guess of his personality and things like that. And in that year, he almost beat that amazing team, that Georgia Bulldog team that had probably the best backfield in college football history. They had Nick Chubb and they had Sony Michel, and they was running crazy on that Oklahoma defense. And that's probably, that's contributed to the reason why, Georgia won that game. But Oklahoma had like a 2 touchdown start or lead going into, coming off that halftime. But it was just phenomenal play from that Georgia backfield. And they didn't, despite being down by those points late in the game, they were still able to run the football and believe in their team. So I don't think that was all the way Baker's fault. But yeah, that team was hard to beat. But when you think about the stats, especially the Heisman year of the stats between Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield, the stats are very, very close. But Kyler Murray had 700 more rushing yards, and he had 7 more touchdowns than rushing touchdowns than Baker Mayfield, because Baker Mayfield's just a pocket passer, of course. Kyler Murray's a pocket passer as well, but he can use his feet and his legs more because he's just, faster. So of course he should have more rushing yards and more rushing touchdowns. But I think Baker was a better passer, and an underrated passer as well, because it's not like he has a crazy arm strength like a Mahomes or Josh Allen or somebody like that, or even Justin Herbert. He doesn't have that kind of arm, but he's efficient and he can get the football where it needs to go in a timely manner. And Kyler, it was interesting because he won the Heisman at around like 5'10", which the smaller quarterbacks usually get discredited or stuff like that. But the offense that he had with the CD Lambs and um, he had a couple other players that were, Hollywood Browns. He had some elite receivers on the outside, but he had to get the football there, and then he had to see over 6'5" and 6'7", 6'7" linemen, and he was able to do that. So it was just impressive to see that. So he was very electric in that way. But I think Baker is just a better quarterback when it comes to Oklahoma football. Kyler Murray was very impressive, but Baker, what he was doing, especially against Ohio State, it kind of gave him the edge for me. Kyler beat some good players, but he might have had a worse defense Kyler did. But at the same time, I just think Baker was on another level. He was more prototypical, even though he was a shorter quarterback. They only listed him at 6 foot, and Caleb Williams was 6'1", I believe. So a lot of their quarterbacks were under the prototypical size what they want for the league of that 6'3", 6'4" player. But nevertheless, they were very productive and efficient, especially in that Oklahoma uniform. But tell me what you think your favorite player or favorite quarterback from OU was. And until next time, I'll see you next time.